Welcome to World Think Talk. And here is something to think about. What if you could actually boost your IQ? Not just a little, but significantly. We're diving deep today into some research that suggests you absolutely can.
It is fascinating, isn't it? The idea of fixed IQ is so deeply ingrained in our culture. But science is showing us a completely different picture.
Yeah, it's like we're told from a young age that we're born with a certain amount of intelligence, and that's it. Game over.
But the reality is our brains are incredibly adaptable, especially when it comes to fluid intelligence, which is the ability to solve new problems, think creatively, and adapt to novel situations.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, there's fluid intelligence, which is like our mental agility. And then there's crystallized intelligence.
Exactly. Crystallized intelligence is all the knowledge and facts we accumulate over a lifetime. Think of it as your mental encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Fluid intelligence, on the other hand, is your ability to think on your feet, to see patterns, and to solve problems you've never encountered before.
Okay, so knowing all the presidents in order would be crystallized intelligence. But figuring out how to build a bridge out of spaghetti and marshmallows, that's fluid intelligence.
Precisely. And here's the exciting part. Research shows that fluid intelligence can be trained and improved significantly. In fact, there's a groundbreaking experiment from the 1970s that really highlights this.
Ooh, I love a good science story. Tell me more.
This experiment was conducted in Serbia by a researcher named R. Kovacev. He divided high school students into two groups. One group received standard education, while the other group received special training in creative problem solving for at least an hour each week for 3 years.
So they weren't just memorizing facts or doing drills.
Not at all. They were given all sorts of unusual problems and challenged to come up with creative solutions. The results were astounding. The group that received the problem-solving training saw their IQ scores jump significantly, some by as much as 15 points.
15 points. That's incredible. I mean, that could be the difference between getting into a top-tier university or not. So what's the takeaway here? If I start doing Sudoku puzzles every day, will I become a genius?
Not quite. While puzzles can be mentally stimulating, the key is training your brain to think relationally, to see connections and patterns that others might miss. And that's exactly what Kovacev's experiment demonstrated. These students weren't practicing for an IQ test, they were developing a whole new way of thinking.
So it's not about cramming information, it's about building those mental muscles that allow us to think more flexibly and creatively.
Exactly. And there are some modern approaches to cognitive training that have shown real promise. One that stands out is called SMART training.
SMART training.
Yeah.
Sounds intriguing. What's the story there?
SMART stands for Strengthening Mental Abilities with Relational Training. It was developed by researchers at Maynooth University, and it focuses specifically on enhancing those relational thinking skills we've been talking about. What's really remarkable is that this type of training has been shown to not only increase IQ scores, but also improve academic performance overall.
So it's not just about acing a test. It's about actually becoming a better learner.
Precisely. It's about rewiring your brain to learn more efficiently and effectively. But here's the thing. Cognitive training programs are only one piece of the puzzle. Our lifestyle choices play a huge role in cognitive function as well.
Okay, so we're talking diet, exercise, sleep, the usual suspects.
They're important for a reason. Think of your brain as a high-performance machine. It needs the right fuel, regular maintenance, and enough downtime to function at its best.
So binging Netflix all night while snacking on junk food is probably not the best brain-boosting strategy?
Probably not. But here's something else to consider. Your physical environment can have a bigger impact on your mental clarity than you might realize. Clutter, for example, can be a huge drain on your mental energy, even if you're not consciously aware of it.
Oh, tell me about it. My desk is a disaster zone. I swear I lose at least an hour a day just searching for things.
That's a perfect example. When you're surrounded by clutter, your brain is constantly bombarded with visual stimuli, pulling your attention in different directions. It's like trying to read a book in a noisy room. You might get through it, but it takes more effort and you won't absorb as much.
So if clutter is bad for the brain, then a clean, minimalist space should be good for it.
Absolutely. A tidy, organized environment frees up cognitive resources so you can focus on more demanding tasks. It's about creating a sense of mental space and tranquility.
Makes you wonder if those minimalist YouTubers are onto something. Maybe they're not just aesthetically pleasing. Maybe they're secretly geniuses.
There might be something to that. But there's another surprising factor that can boost cognitive function, and it's something we can all do regardless of our budget or design preferences.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Taking regular walks, especially in large open spaces, can actually improve your thinking.
Wait, just going for a walk, how does that work?
It's all about expanding your mental landscape. Modern life, with all its screens and indoor activities, has shrunk our world in a sense. We spend most of our time interacting with a limited physical space, and this can actually limit our thinking as well.
So by exposing ourselves to expansive spaces, we're literally expanding our minds.
Precisely. It's like taking your brain for a stretch. When you're surrounded by vastness, whether it's a park, a beach, or even just a wide open field, your thoughts have more room to breathe. It can lead to clearer thinking, increased creativity, and a renewed sense of perspective.
I love that analogy. Taking your brain for a stretch. It makes perfect sense. I know I always feel more relaxed and inspired after a long walk in nature. It's like my thoughts just flow more easily. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from debunking the fixed IQ myth to exploring the surprising connection between our physical environment and mental clarity. What are some other mental habits we can cultivate to boost our intelligence?
That's a great question, and there are several we can delve into. Let's dig deeper. One of the most fundamental, yet often overlooked skills for enhancing intelligence is active listening.
You mean like actually paying attention instead of just nodding along while I'm mentally planning my grocery list?
Precisely. Active listening is so much more than just hearing words. It's about truly engaging with the speaker, trying to understand their perspective, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting on what they're saying. It's like a mental workout for your brain.
So it's about being present in the conversation, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Exactly. And here's why it's so crucial for boosting intelligence. When you're actively listening, you're not just passively absorbing information, you're processing it deeply, making connections, and building upon your existing knowledge.
It's like the difference between skimming a textbook and actually studying it carefully. One just goes in one ear and out the other, while the other sticks with you and expands your understanding.
That's a great way to put it. And the more you practice active listening, the more adept you become at absorbing and retaining information, which in turn makes you a more effective learner and thinker.
So it's a skill that pays dividends in every area of life, not just in the classroom.
Absolutely. And another often overlooked aspect of intelligence is the development of what I call mental syntax.
Mental syntax. Sounds intense. What exactly does that mean?
Think of it as the underlying structure of your thoughts. Just as proper grammar and syntax are essential for clear communication, a robust mental syntax is crucial for complex, nuanced thinking.
So if our thoughts are jumbled and disorganized, our thinking will be too...
Precisely. A strong mental syntax allows you to hold multiple ideas in your mind at once, to see the relationships between them, and to manipulate those ideas in sophisticated ways. It's like having a well-organized filing system in your brain where you can quickly access and process information.
Okay, so how do we build this mental syntax? Is it like learning a new language in our minds?
In a way, yes. And one of the best ways to do that is by strengthening your existing language skills. Focus on expanding your vocabulary, paying attention to grammar, and engaging with complex texts.
I've always loved words, and I've definitely noticed that the more I read and write, the clearer and more organized my thinking becomes. It's like my thoughts have a more solid foundation to build upon.
Exactly. And it's not just about language. Mathematics and music also play a significant role in developing mental syntax.
Math and music. Those seem like very different disciplines. How do they connect to our thinking structure?
Both math and music are systems of logic and pattern recognition. When you engage with them deeply, you're essentially training your brain to think in terms of structure and order, which strengthens your overall mental syntax. Think of it as cross-training for your brain.
I never thought about it that way. But it makes perfect sense. I remember struggling with math in school. But when I finally started to understand the concepts, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind. Suddenly I could see the underlying logic. And it felt incredibly empowering.
Exactly. It's that aha moment where you grasp the structure, the framework, and it opens up a whole new way of thinking. And here's something else to consider. Daydreaming, often seen as a waste of time, can actually be incredibly beneficial for boosting intelligence.
Right? Daydreaming? I thought that was something we were supposed to avoid if we want to be productive.
Not at all. Daydreaming is when your mind is free to wander, to make connections, to explore new possibilities. It's where creativity is born.
So it's like giving your brain a playground to experiment and come up with new ideas.
Precisely. And those new ideas can lead to breakthroughs in problem solving, innovation, and even just a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you.
I'm starting to see a theme here. It seems like a lot of these intelligence boosting strategies involve giving our brains more space and freedom to explore, whether it's through active listening, developing mental syntax, or simply allowing ourselves to daydream.
That's a brilliant observation. It's about breaking free from rigid, habitual ways of thinking and allowing your mind to become more flexible and adaptable. And speaking of adaptability, one of the most powerful things you can do to enhance your intelligence is to identify and cultivate your special interests.
You mean our passions, the things that light us up.
Exactly. When you're deeply engaged with something you're passionate about, whether it's art, music, science, or anything else, you're not just learning information, you're developing skills, building focus, and training your brain to think in new ways.
I've definitely noticed that in my own life. When I'm working on a project that I'm excited about, I can focus for hours without getting distracted. It's like time melts away because I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing.
That's a perfect example that deep focus and engagement strengthens your cognitive muscles, and those strengths can then be applied to other areas of your life. It's like cross-training for your brain.
I love that. So it's not just about becoming an expert in one specific area. It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, exploration, and lifelong learning.
Precisely. And that, in my opinion, is the key to not just boosting intelligence, but living a rich, fulfilling, and intellectually stimulating life.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. We really have. From debunking that old fixed IQ myth to those Serbian students who boosted their IQs through creative problem solving. Talk about inspiring.
And don't forget those practical takeaways. Even simple things like tidying up your workspace or taking a walk in nature can have a real impact on your cognitive function.
I know I won't be able to look at a pile of clutter the same way again. And that mental syntax thing, mind-blowing. It's like a new language was important, but I never really thought about how it shapes the very structure of our thoughts.
It's a powerful concept, isn't it? And it highlights how interconnected everything is. Our language skills, our mathematical abilities, even our appreciation for music, all contribute to building a more robust mental framework.
And who would have thought that daydreaming, something we're often told to avoid, could actually be a key to unlocking creativity and boosting intelligence?
It's about giving our minds the space to wander, to make those unexpected connections that lead to new insights and innovations.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from today is this. Intelligence isn't something we're simply born with. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving capacity that we can nurture and expand throughout our lives.
Exactly. And that's incredibly empowering. You're not stuck with the mental hand you were dealt. You have the power to shape your own intelligence through your choices, your habits, and your mindset.
So instead of thinking, I'm not smart enough, we should be asking ourselves, what can I do today to become a little bit smarter than I was yesterday?
That's the spirit. Embrace a growth mindset. Challenge yourself to learn new things. Step outside of your comfort zone. And never underestimate the incredible power of your own mind.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap things up. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we go?
Just this. Remember that knowledge is most valuable when it's applied. So take what you've learned today and put it into practice. Experiment, explore, and keep those mental muscles working. You'll be amazed at what your mind can achieve.
Until next time on World Think Talk.